Welcome to Deep Thought. Beautiful but insecure. Now, this is another one of those ones I probably talked about it someplace on one of these channels, maybe even this one before, because you have so many women, especially, not so much as men, but you get this with men who could be handsome but insecure. You know, people physically appealing but insecure. And I've been thinking about that a lot more because I constantly come across that, like, just very beautiful women. Hard for me to tell guys, so I'll focus on women. Very beautiful women, but they're like, oh, I don't look like this. And you're looking at them like, you're gorgeous. What are you talking about? But, you know, there's an insecurity. And I thought about that insecurity. Why is there such an insecurity? Well, one, I think a big issue. In fact, I ain't going to use the term I think. I know. A big issue is we live in a culture. Most of us live in a culture anyway, particularly overall Western culture that has a standard for what is beautiful, what is handsome, what is aesthetically appealing. And this thing is promoted through magazines. It's promoted through modeling. It's promoted through, television, images, everything. So what happens is many people who might not have like the same thing that is notice I said currently promoted because, and I'm saying currently because it's the type of thing that can change from year to year, depending on the popularity and everything. And like one year somebody be like, nah, then the next year, oh yeah, that person is gorgeous. Right? And it's like, so you got this thing, so people feel like, well, I don't look like that. And, many times, often on, particularly on my men's channel, you'll get a comment or say, well, that person's objectively handsome. I'm like, no. Objective is 1 + 1 equals 2. Objective is math. At best, even if it's somebody conventionally or consensusly attractive to many people, there's still somebody gonna look at me like, that's not objective, or just the fact that even if you look at what the images that, particularly in Western culture, that are promoted, they change every year. They change by every year. Like, I'll give you an example, a male example, with People magazine. Now, they just recently had I think it's his name, John Legend, on There's a Sexiest Man Alive, most recent. But then the year before, they had Idris Elba. Now, these two, one, they physically just look different. Physically just look different. And then even with speaking on that objective thing, some people might say, well, objectively, Idris Elba is this. But then I've actually met women who were like, he okay, or he all right, stuff like that. So it's like, okay, well, how can you hold any standard of beauty or looking good, handsome as like objective or as like the thing or as the standard? But the problem is we live in a society that does that, and that's how people get caught up. See, understand one thing about beauty. You have 3 flowers. One is a rose. One is an orchid. The third was a dandelion. All 3 of them are beautiful. But they're beautiful in a different way. You can't look at them the same. Just like you have a woman who might be real slim, but she's beautiful. She might be slim, long flowing hair, but she's still beautiful. Or you have a woman who, she has more weight on her, more curvy, and her hair is short, more of a shortcut, but she still is beautiful. One of the things about beauty or handsomeness, or for whatever, people, they can't compare themselves to another person. In fact, they shouldn't. They're not meant to. Both can be beautiful. Both can be handsome. That's the key thing. Both can be. They supposed to be. They supposed to appeal to different people. We don't all have to be a robot society where we all agree on the same thing. You know? That's kind of crazy. You know? What people have to do, the only thing people have to do is be the best that they can be. You know? Everybody, you don't have to have certain color eyes. You don't have to have a certain shape of head. Or you don't have to even have a certain body build. I've talked about the body build on my men's channel. I said, because I always talk, know me, I always talk about the body game. I promote that heavily. But ultimately, the ultimate body game for any male or female to follow is what their particular maximum is. You have some men and women, they might be tall and stocky. And then others might be short and slim. Or, you got so many combinations. As long as it's the best for that person. Because then if that's the best for that person, then they beautiful to or handsome to the people that are compatible with it, that are turned on by it. And it's a little science. And since this is the deep thought, we get into the metaphysics. That's just a DNA thing. Like every male and female, from the time they are born, there's some in their DNA that will find a certain type of person physically appealing, or certain type of people. And then at the same time, it finds other people, certain type of people or groups or whatever, not as appealing. But there's nothing wrong with that. Because the DNA is looking for the best optimal to match its own imprint, its own pattern. So, you might have one person, their beauty or handsomeness or they physically attracted to, the slim person, the tall slim person, while the other one's attracted to the stockier one. There's nothing wrong with that. So when people understand that, it's like, no, you don't don't worry about the society. Understand what you're presenting. People have to look in the mirror and ultimately be comfortable with themselves. Don't be insecure about it. Just say, hey, you know what? Hey, look. These are my cheekbones. This is the color of my eyes. This is the shape of my head. I'm going to just get it to the best that I can get it, your DNA level. And then I ain't worried about it past that. You're not worried about it. See, I'm going to tell you what. And this is an interesting thing I've noticed. I remember back in, it was back in the 90s. I was working on a book about beautiful people. I was actually researching and I wanted to see something. And I had a plan, outline what I was going to do. And I actually interviewed different people. I actually interviewed them. And you know what I found funny with each one of them? Yes, they realized that a consensus of people found them physically attractive, the men and the women. They were cool with it. They were like, okay, yeah. But this is what else I'm doing. They didn't let it go to their heads. Oh, most of them didn't. Most of them didn't. Like, I remember I talked with one woman, and I had known her since I was in high school. And she was like, pretty is as pretty does. Well, she said it in a more feminine voice, but she was like, it ain't a big deal. You just go out here and whatever you're going to do, you just go ahead and do it. She wasn't worried about it. If somebody told her how beautiful she was, she'd be like, thank you, and keep going. And she really was. She never made a big deal out of it. She never had an attitude. One of the friendliest people that anybody can ever meet. But she wasn't insecure about it. She wasn't insecure. She didn't feel like she had to compete with anybody. She was just her. And that's ultimately what someone has to do. Like, people have to just say, look, I'm going to be the best me, and then I'm just going to go on with it. Now, some people going to see that and be like, yes. And other people going to be like, nah. It don't matter. It don't matter. There's nothing to be insecure about. You the best you. All right? So anyway, that's all I got for that one. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and many blessings.